All right, my friends, we are live after a very brief user error. That one on me. I went to go ahead and hit record and hit end video. So, with that being out of the way, we welcome you to Monday morning. We welcome you to our 23rd webcast. We welcome you to a really cool conversation today on not only owning your life, we've kind of hinted at that one before, but giving you three critical elements to maximize freedom and elevate influence along the journey. My name is John O'Leary. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, let me welcome you in particular, but for all of us. Some of us having been here now for 23 months as a family, guys, ladies, friends. Welcome. Welcome back. Welcome home. Today, if you haven't yet joined us, well, let me give you a quick overview of how we do things around here. When you see this little text baby pop up, that means we want to hear from you. That's our chat feature. And we want to make sure that you recognize the question, that you understand that we want to hear your voice. So go ahead and respond to it, type in. It's a really cool way that we can continue the conversation together, but that you can actively engage with what we're chatting about. So the very first question to remind you, what are some triggers that influence your attitude throughout the day? What are some of the triggers that influence your attitude throughout the day? We've already heard from some friends, but I want to hear from everybody. So when you see that chat feature, join in. Come on. Secondly, all of us ought to have journals. So if you have your journal handy, beautiful. If it's red or black and it's got the words Live Inspired in Studio, great, even better. But even today, if it's a cocktail napkin, or a sheet of scrap paper that you have to the right of you that you want to take notes on. We're going to have at least one exercise where you spend some time journaling. So get ready for that one. You'll need it handy. This one, every Sunday I send out a little video message letting you know that I'm thinking about you, that I love you, that I appreciate you, and how you can take the next step forward in whatever topic we're talking about that month. So if you have never done it yet, here's your opportunity to take advantage of something that is free. You've already invested in this, so make sure that you are soaking up the most of it that you can. Go ahead and text 314-825-2478, the word studio. And I will be with you next Sunday to remind you what we talked about, owning your life. It's a cool way to augment this program. And then, my friends, before we dive in fully, the big screen right there shows you that indeed we have, thank you, Shannon, created the discussion forum. So the discussion forum is up, it's going, it's strong. We want to have you participate not only during the 1 hour or so monthly, but throughout the month so we can continue the conversation together. We received a couple really good questions over the last few days. I'm going to actually respond to these by name. So, this isn't something we'll do every single time, but I wanted to make sure that you recognize we're in here checking out the discussion forum, and we want it to become a critical part of what we do together through In Studio. So, my friends, the first question came from KC Chuck. Chuck has been a friend of mine for almost a decade. So, Chuck, we love you. We appreciate you being part of our community. His question is, John, I work to be organized and principled, with my priorities in check, yet schedule enough free time to allow the Holy Spirit to engage where appropriate. I really am trying to not sweat the small stuff. I'm really working on respecting the past, but not to be a victim of the past. I work to be in the moment and not climbing or planning the next thing, so to say. What practices, John, or daily, weekly, monthly habits help you, John, focus and then help you prioritize your time? From our friend Chuck Jansen. So friends, here I am, John O'Leary, live in a living color. I want to respond to Chuck's question, respond to one other question, and then get into the topic while others are tuning in right now on owning your life. Owning your life. What a cool topic to talk about. So Chuck, you mentioned how you're trying to prioritize your time and also pay attention to what God is calling you to do next. So what I would encourage you to do, what I encourage all of us to do, and what I try to model myself, is to start with the end in mind. And I don't just mean the end of the day, although that's part of the journey. I don't just mean the end of the speech or the end of the book or the end of the program or the end of this in studio topic. That's all part of it. But I talk like the end of life in mind. I have a pretty long horizon in studio members on what we think success looks like. We've talked about this before in our in studio, but make sure that the ladder you are leaning your life against, that you are climbing up the right wall. It is really critical to get that one right. So Chuck and friends, I start with the end in mind. What does the end of my life look like, and what do I want it to look like? And then I start backing in around marriage, around my spiritual journey, around what it means to be a great son, how I can be a better husband, what success looks like in my business. Every year in every business that I've ever run, we always have a 5-year plan. That's pretty far out there in today's terms. But in understanding where we want to go, we start backing into it. So we start with a big 5-year vision, Chuck and everyone else, and then we pull back. Okay, so what can we do in 1 year? In 12 months, if we were really committed to that big, bold vision out there 12 months down, 5 years downstream, what could we do in 12 months? And then what do we have to do as individuals to move in that direction? We've had the conversations around the best year yet, critical stuff, but it's only really critical if it's in line with where you want to go in 5 years and where your life ultimately wants to go. So Chuck and leaders, friends, have that big, long time horizon out there, then 5 years, then 12 months, then about quarterly, and then I have weekly sprints. We see how much we can get done in a week, but sometimes getting a lot done in a week means taking time for myself, for my family, for my faith, for my health, for my finances, for giving back. So it gives you periodic check-ins throughout your year to slow down long enough to make sure that you are moving in the direction that actually matters. I hope that helps you, Chuck. And if you have other questions, please feel free to stick around until the very end, because any questions you may have, we will come back to them at the end. So you may chat them or email them, okay? Great question, Chuck. And there was one more question that really sets up the conversation for the entire day. This one comes in from our new friend, Rona Swanson. Rona says, John, how can you keep people who are negative, and you cannot avoid them in any organization where we work? How do you keep them from throwing their sticky webs around you, trying to entangle you in their drama? Rona and friends, what a great question, because that's what we are going to be talking about today. How do we ultimately control what we can control? How do we not get ourselves entangled in the webs of those around us, but how do we elevate our lives, elevate the lives around us as best we can? And then for those who choose not to be elevated, not to be inspired, not to be encouraged, to let them come back to us at a more appropriate time for them. How do we do this? How do we do this? Well, I'm glad you asked. We have, as part of Studio, something called the Manifesto. I love this document. We spent a long time creating it, and I very seldom read it all the way through, so I won't read it all the way through right now. But we believe a whole lot of things around here, and we also believe this, that we get to live by choice. Rona and Casey, Chuck. Let me see who else is tuning in. Jake and Mike B and everybody else. We get to live by choice, not by chance. We get to choose whose web we are intertwined with and brought down by, or whose we cut free from. That's our choice. We get to own our life. What a cool idea. So today, friends and community, we get to celebrate the ability we have in our lives to own it. 3 critical elements to maximize the freedom to elevate our influence along the journey. There's that chat feature. If you have not yet chatted in, come on, I want to hear from you. I'm going to give you a quick little setup story, and then we're going to listen to what you have to say. There you and I are. Okay? We're kind of just doing our thing. It's a neutral day because we're just waking up. The very first thing, these triggers as we arise in the morning, the very first one typically is this: an alarm. It might be a buzzing. It might be a fire alarm. It might be a trash truck outside. It might be a child's cry. It might be a doorbell. It might be the, holy cow, I'm going to miss my flight. The alarm did not go off. But no matter what it is, there is an alarm that gets us up in the morning. And then from there, a whole lot of other things show up. The sunrise, the coffee, the headlines, the dog, the kids, the email, social media, relationships, traffic. And that gets us to about 7:41 in the morning. So the day is just starting. All these triggers, first thing first, that's what happens right away. They come at us. Okay, you can't help any of this. It comes at you. And then you breathe in, you breathe out, and you respond. This is when you get to decide, should that little stick man have a frown or a smile? Should that little stick woman be angry about the dog, about the kids, about the health crisis, about the email and social media and headlines and relationships and traffic, or be grateful for it? I notice I don't wear sunglasses often, and I almost never put my visor down because I view the sun as one of the great gifts of our life. But I know a whole lot of people who, when that sun rises in the east as they're driving eastbound, they curse it. They curse it. I know a whole lot of folks who are deeply bothered by their children, or deeply bothered by their lack of children. They're deeply bothered by how many emails they get, or deeply bothered by how few emails they get. They get these triggers that come into their life, and then they respond in one direction. But here's the gift. This is the good part. You get to respond. You get to choose this part. It's not the kid or the lack of. It's not the email or the lack of. It's not the sunshine or the clouds. It's you. And so today we get to harness the great power of you. I was working this weekend on my screen porch. The sun was shining. The kids were playing. My little girl, Grace, she's 7, came in and said, "Dad, what you doing? What you working on?" And then eventually, after I told her, studio, she says, "What do you want them to learn?" Pretty good question. What do you want them to learn? So my friends, if you're still asking yourself that, I'll give you 3 things I want you to take away from this. But at the end of the day, I want you to recognize the power alive and well in your life. Your life. Okay, so I want you to learn that today. Let's talk about what you've experienced so far, though. Viktor Frankl reminds us that everything can be taken away from a person, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. This from a man who survived years of being abused by the Nazis during the Holocaust. He lost everything except the last of the great human freedoms, the ability to choose our way forward. Not the trigger. You can't always choose the trigger, but you can choose your response. So my friends, I want to turn now to some of the triggers that have affected you in your life. Here are just a couple. MB Fox, I welcome you. It's all about the sleep. That's an important trigger for all of us. K2, if that's who I'm thinking of, K2, welcome back. How I handled the day before. Am I riding the wave or crashing in the surf? Well said, K2. Jake, how I prep the start of my day is the biggest influence. Well said, Jake. Winnie Mel, how I physically feel, the weather outside, and what is on my schedule for the day. All these triggers influence my day. Perfect. Just a couple more. Jonesboro, my beautiful birds, especially the cardinals. That's right. The cardinals come and they pray with me. My days are wonderful no matter what. Thank you, Jonesboro. And we'll do one more. Mike B. Lack of sleep from the night before. Right on. These things come at us. And then what? We get to talk now today over the next, it's going to go fast, 47 minutes about the then what. Okay? So if you haven't started taking notes yet, deep pause. Breathe in, breathe out. I'm going full screen in a minute. Then what? Then what? Okay, let's talk about the then what today. 3 areas that I want you to grow in as we talk about the then what in your life. Write them down, please. Expect these from me, yes, but expect them from yourself as takeaways. Number 1, to embrace your influence, to recognize the power of your life, to recognize how contagious you are, positively and negatively, to recognize the gift of accountability in your journey. Embrace your influence. You got it. You got it. Let's harness that. Number 1. Secondly, I like this term a lot. Rand Stagen is a friend of mine. We'll talk a bit more about him in a moment, but he talks a lot, writes a lot, speaks a lot about conscious leadership. Cool term. We're going to unpack that today, and we're going to hopefully encourage you to choose it. And then thirdly, make a commitment to live it. Okay? Not just be aware of it. That's the first step typically in any change. But to be aware enough that you choose to live it. So my friends, are you ready for this? You ready for the then what? Here we go. Come on. Number 1, first takeaway, embrace your life. I'm going full screen for this one, I think. All right, looking back on your own life, have you ever done anything that you now realize was a big mistake? None of you. Okay, I struggle believing that. For those who have heard me speak over the last, couple of months or so, you're probably vaguely familiar with the story. But at age 9, I was involved in a pretty serious gasoline explosion. Here's photographic evidence. Don't worry, guys, if you tuned in for the first time, I'm not going to go through my whole story again. I'm not going to tell you about Jack Buck. I'm not going to show you pictures of my kids at the end. We're not going to end up there today. But this story matters. I always viewed what happened to me as an accident. Okay? I always viewed that as happening to me. But in life, at some point, as the birds are chirping outside our house, we can view them as nuisances, annoyances, bothersome, or, like one of our friends, you can view them as gifts who come by my windowsill to pray with me. You can recognize that you are accountable fully to your life, not necessarily to the triggers. You can't choose that, but you can always choose the manner in which you walk forward afterwards. The then what? This thing happened to me at age 9. And I find myself in a radically different situation. I'm blown against the far side of the garage. Eventually, I find myself in the garage, then in the front hall, eventually in the emergency room, and everything in my entire life changed. One moment, I'm a happy, healthy, you know where this is going, extremely good-looking. I'm going to try to go full screen, guys. I mean, this is so good. I just need to see it. Bask in that good-looking man for a moment. Life was good. Bangs were great. The tree was up. And then it gets bad. I know some of you have come in through our podcast and other channels. So if you've not heard me speak, this next picture may be hard to look at. So you may want to shut your eyes. But this sets the stage for the then what. The next picture, I find myself on my back in an emergency room with burns on 100% of my body. Just look at that for a moment. That's me. This thing happened to me. Then what? Then what? My dad came in. We'll come back to him in a different webcast. But I'm going to focus today on my mom. She comes in, walks over to me. She takes my right hand in hers. She pats my bald head, and she says, I love you. I look up and I say, Mom, knock it off with the love. Am I going to die? Am I going to die? My friends, if you're chatting with me right now, I want to hear from you. Anybody remember what her response was? I say, Mom, am I going to die? And I'm asking the question, expecting and longing and hoping that she will provide truth that I'm going to be fine, that I'm going to get out of here today, that she's going to take me out for a milkshake this afternoon. That's what I want, man. I want hope. I want to be told, in other words, that she's going to do it all for me and she's going to make it right. But instead, she asked a question. First one to get it wins. You win pride, baby. Pride is worthy, so come on. Do you want to fill in the blank? Do you want to die? And then, as if to hammer another nail in my coffin, she says, baby, it's your choice. It's not mine. It's not mine. So my question to us studio members, why? Why would she ask that question? And I would love to hear from you. I'm going to respond. I'm going to tell you why I think she asked it. But for those of us in right now, and for those of us tuning in later on, why would she ask such a rude, obnoxious question? Do you want to die? Why would she do that? I'm going to take a sip of water while you're thinking about it. Chat to me, please. Do you want to die? Here's why. It's a simple word. I'm not sure it's very popular in our society. I'm not sure it's very popular in every office environment that we work in. I'm not sure it's popular in every family, every marriage, every upbringing. I'm not sure you experienced that as a kid. I'm not sure we experience it today as adults. But my mother was demanding of me that I finally, for the first time in my life, wake up to the gift, and it is a gift, of owning your life, baby, of becoming accountable. She wanted this little boy to embrace, and look at all these great responses. MB Fox, it's your choice, baby. You had to be all in. Yes, you had to be all in. It was your choice. I love that term, by the way, MB Fox. You had to be all in. Perfect. Accountability means this. You can write this down if you'd like. Expected and required to account for and own one's decisions and one's actions. Accountability means that the triggers come into our life, that the cans of gasoline from time to time explode, that children nag, that life can be hard, that we can struggle financially and with addiction. Like, life happens. But at some point, you got to be accountable and to take account for and own one's decisions and actions going forward. So here's what my mother was saying, if you kind of read in the parentheses. Look around, baby. Just look around. This is your life. As I'm saying this from her, I'm kind of reading in parentheses here. I invite you to hear them for yourself, though, too. I needed to hear these on January 17th, 1987, as a kid. And today, on March 18th at 10:51 Central Time, I need to hear it again. John, MB Fox, Jonesboro, KC Chuck, K2, look around. This is your life. You are where you are as a culmination of all your life choices up into right this moment. Okay? If you don't like where you are, make different choices. You are accountable, baby. You are accountable. What a gift. Today we unpack and open up why that gift of accountability. This isn't a weight. This isn't a cross to carry around. This is liberating. This is like raising a big sail and saying it's no longer Trump's fault. It's no longer Obama's fault. It's no longer my parents' fault. It's no longer even yesterday's fault. I get to look around in my life right now and recognize it is the culmination of every decision made up by those around me and myself to this moment right here. And if I don't like where I am, I get to make different choices because I'm accountable. I'm accountable. This is awesome. This is good news. And you're not alone on the yellow brick road. How many of you know who these people are? Just raise your hands. I can see you through the computer screen. Good. Everybody tuning in right now is vaguely familiar. The Scarecrow, the Tin Man, Little Toto, Dorothy, and the Courageous Lion. We all know who they are. Here's my question to you, though, my friends. I wrote this one in yellow because they were journeying down the yellow brick road. What were they looking for? What were they really looking for? Now, the top line answer seems like this. John, I think we all know they were heading to Emerald City, man. They wanted to see the great Dr. Oz. I mean, we get this. We get this. But is that really what they were looking for? I want you to think about what they thought they needed. Because it wasn't really the destination of the city. It was actually beyond the city. And then something surprising happens once they actually arrive within the city. It's not there at all. It was with them every step along the journey. So I'd like you, scarecrows and 10 men, 10 ladies, Dorothys, Totos, courageous lions. I love that. The lion's probably my favorite character, maybe in all of literature. I just think the lion is awesome. The lion, once he recognizes that the courage was always within him, becomes the king of the entire forest. I don't know if you've read the book, but that's part of the journey. He rules over the entire forest with bravery, with courage. The 10 man, longing for a heart, recognizes finally that he was the most heartfelt leader of everybody along the entire journey. The little scarecrow. He was always looking for a brain. Gosh, he just wanted a brain. And yet he recognizes at the end of the journey, it had been with him the entire time. And then sweet Dorothy, she recognizes when she finally gets there, all she had to do was click those little heels together. And those ruby slippers are going to take her where she always wanted to go, man. So here's the quote I'd like you to remember. The real journey is about learning what they do not yet know about themselves in order to recognize the power they had always possessed. This is true for characters within great books and within one of the first movies ever done in Technicolor. But it's also true, my friends, as you look in the mirror today. The real journey of accountability, the real journey of life, the real journey of owning the story going forward is about learning what they do not yet know about themselves in order to recognize the power that we, studio members, family, always possessed. A book that helps us recognize this, and it uses that story of the Wizard of Oz, is the Oz Principle. I read this book, 10 years ago or so. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, check it out at the library. I think they're free today. So it's a cool book. The Oz Principle by Connors, Smith, and Hickman essentially says there are two ways to go through life along the yellow brick road. You can either live below the line, which means you are beat down by the evil witches and those flying monkeys and the scary wind and everything else that's going to show up along the way. That's one way to go through life, and it's a way many people will choose to as victims to it all. Alternatively, if you choose to rise above the line, if you choose to embrace your story, if you choose to own your life, you live above the line, which means you are fully accountable. You are fully accountable. And so I'd like you, ladies and gentlemen, to take notes on this. They say that there are 4 steps in living above the line. We'll talk about that a little bit in our own language, but these are the 4 steps they suggest. Number 1 is to see it. whatever the thing is. The trash blowing by on the street, we can see it go blow by and say, man, someone should pick that up. But you got to see it first. You got to see it. Once you see the challenge, once you see what's going on around you, once you see the opportunity, the next step is to own it. So instead of saying someone ought to pick that up, it means, well, I'm going to. We own it. The third, we solve it. When we walk over to it or reach down, we think about this all in our heads first, but we creatively, cognitively come up with a solution to whatever the problem or the opportunity might be in our life. We solve it. And then finally, you take action. Accountability demands ownership, which requires and liberates us to actually move forward. Act. You act. That's one way to go through life, above the line. So I'd like you briefly, studio members, quickly, get your fingers to do the talking real quickly for me. How do people who live above the line impact and influence you at work, in the community, in a restaurant, anywhere you see them? I mean, people who live above the line are different and you experience them differently. Well, how do those who live above the line, influence you? How do they impact you? Text me, chat me. I want to hear from you. Come on, guys, real quick. We're going somewhere with this, I promise you. We are called to be above the line leaders in life. All right, keep them coming in. K2, they inspire me to do even better. Don't they? Whether it's a custodian doing his job, doing her job beautifully, or a flight attendant, or when you walk into a restaurant and they're like, come here. You guys look great. Come on over. Let me take you to the back table. No one's here yet. No one's going to know. When they're living above the line, they encourage you to rise above with them. It's contagious. It is contagious. They provide motivation. Thank you for that. Rob, you recognize their kindness. MB Fox, help you recognize the opportunity to own your own life. Yes, and yes, and yes. Keep them coming in. Perfect. But then recognize we're not always there, and neither is the community where we play and work and live. Frequently, we fall below the line. We play the blame game, and the blame game is a loser's game. The blame game is where fools like to chill. The blame game is frequently what we're doing on the evening news, depending on which side of the aisle you choose to hang out on. Throwing mud across the aisle and seeing what sticks. And if that doesn't stick, we'll throw another lob tomorrow and see if that sticks better. Negativity works in the short term. It's below the line thinking, though. When we live below the line, this is what happens. We take a wait-and-see attitude. As the trash blows by, just keep this little idea rolling all the way through in front of us today. As the trash blows by, we'll wait and see if someone else will pick it up. Why not? We cover our own tail. There's another expression for that. I won't go there today, but I would imagine some of you know exactly what I'm referring to. You cover your own tail. This is true for politicians. It's true in corporate cultures. It's true with staff. It's frequently true in family. It can be true in our own individual lives if we're not careful. Cover your own tail. We point fingers. Blame game. Wasn't my fault. For me, as a little boy blowing the can of gasoline up, my very first thought was, I can't believe this happened to me. Other boys did the same thing. Their fault. It wasn't my fault. It was their fault. Blame game. Ignore, deny. No, that's not accountability. It's the exact opposite of it. We ignore it and we deny it. Two more. We say, it's not my job. Those words are cancer. That will destroy any marriage. It will destroy any parenting journey. It will destroy any relationship. It will destroy any family. It will destroy any company, destroy any hospital, education system, little schoolhouse in Kansas, any country. Leaders, we've got folks tuning in, I think from 11 different countries as part of Studio. Awesome. But that sentence will change and destroy what we built wherever you live. It's not my job. Yeah, it is actually. The final thing it will do is it will lead to confusion. Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. Okay, it's like kind of vagueness. And we're looking for more clarity in life from our leaders. So here's the second question right now, my friends. How do people who live below the line, and we've been around them, and if we're honest, we sometimes are them. I know I am. I'm far from perfect in my leadership and in my life. How do people who live below the line impact you? You got 15 seconds. Let's do it quickly. Come on, we're almost halfway through already. We got to take this baby somewhere. Got to first set up the problem, then the solution, and then the next step. I want to hear from you. Type, let your fingers do the talking. Come on. Ten seconds. All right, my friends, keep them coming in. And I want to first I'm seeing all these messages popping on our chat feature. And with spring break going on and life happening and a busy time of year, it's a bit of a smaller live group than normally what we have. And yet the engagement today is on fire to use a book that celebrated its 3rd birthday last Friday. Happy birthday, On Fire, baby. But truly, the conversation is on fire today. So I want to thank you all for participating, actively engaging. It matters. It means you're above the line living currently. So I appreciate that. A couple things that I'm hearing from you right now. People below the line, they get you off course. Thank you, KC, Chuck. They drain your energy. Yes, they do, Winnie Mel. They create apathy and exhaustion. K2, depressed, man. They will make you feel depressed. Jonesboro, working and learning how not just to get there, they lead to being selfish. On and on and on. Can we say it's not a positive impact they have? And although we can't change them, guess who we can change? Come on, for sure. We can change how we respond going forward. So how can we climb the ladder and live above the line? If you want to type in a few things from your own perspective, awesome. I'm going to lay out a few and then we're going to pick one, okay? Because how do we even know where we are on that line? I find many people who think they are below the line are in fact some of the most above the line people that I know. And I know some people who are below the line who think that they are just killing it. They got life by the tail and they're the finest leader in the world. Just ask them. Just ask them. Some of them are in places of high authority right now in life, in leadership, in politics. Just ask them. They'll tell you all about how above the line they are. But are they? Are they? How do we really understand where we are? And then how do we climb that ladder to elevate not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us? Come on, that's our next step. I'm going to give you 5 bullets. We're going to pick the final one, and then we're going to move forward together, okay? So living above the line, man, invite candid feedback from your friends, from your partner, from your prayer group, from your men's and ladies groups, from your girlfriends, from your spouse, from your children, from your aging parents. That's been a great one. Invite candid feedback from those around you. Do 360s. That's popular to do in corporate America and corporate Australia and other parts of the world. You know, the 360, great. Do you do it at home though? Do you do it in the community? Do you really know how you're playing above the line, not only for those 40 or so hours, but beyond? Invite candid feedback. That's awesome. Acknowledge the reality that positives and negatives are part of life, and you get to choose how to navigate going forward. It's just part of life. The pluses and negatives. It's part of our journey. Be 100%, and I forget who said it, all in. So there's a shout out to the lady who earlier said, man, you got to be all in. That's right. You got to be 100% all in committed to what you're doing when you're doing it. Be aware. This is the hard piece. Be aware of when you fall below the line. It's an area I live too frequently. I'm trying to get more familiar with it. My dear friends and family helped me understand that with great frequency, and I'm grateful for that. My colleagues working down the hall remind me of that from time to time, and I'm grateful for that. And then finally today, and this is the one we will leverage, ask daily, what more can I do? The great Jack Buck question, to grow. I want you to look at those bottom 2 words, in conscious leadership. Ask daily, what more can I do to grow in conscious leadership? My friends, to help you grow in conscious leadership as a gift for you being part of our community, something that I'm excited to share with you is we have a program that is $79. I believe that's the cost. It's going to be rolled out in May. And for those of you in studio members, it's a gift. I'm not trying to ask you to pull out your credit cards. You've done that. You've made the investment. I am incredibly humble and grateful. So this is a way for me to pull out mine and say thank you. Thank you for being part of this. It's called Your Life on Fire course. We created with Simon & Schuster. We use the YouTube studios up in New York. It's a cool little program that will augment what we're talking about here, but it will free you also to be more aware of conscious leadership and how it's going to elevate your game going forward. So that's my gift. Get ready for that baby in May. More on that later on, but hey, thank you. That's just like my way of saying halfway through our program today. Thank you. Thank you for believing, and I believe in you. So let's do life together. We talked about embracing your influence, but now we're talking before that video is sent your way, how to choose conscious leadership. It's a choice. But maybe before we choose it, we might want to understand, what is it that we are about to choose, O'Leary? You keep throwing around this term, dude, conscious leadership. What is it? What is conscious leadership? So here's a definition that I like. Conscious leadership means the ability to effectively act through a keen, focused, profound, through a keen awareness of who you really are, how you show up in the world, and your purpose within it. So conscious leadership, that means like mindfulness in some regards. The ability to effectively act through a keen awareness of who you really are, how you show up in the world, and your purpose, your given purpose within it. Why does it matter? I think it matters more now than perhaps ever before. As we leaders in this room know, whether you are a student, we have a couple students who are involved, we have a couple retirees involved, and we have a whole lot of folks in different levels of corporate management, of leadership, running their own business and sales and life. Awesome. You're all welcome to the table here. Why does it matter? Because we're doing more and more and more and more with less and less and less and less and less. We are having our attention pulled in a million different directions. We have the ability of the world through our smartphones to do whatever we choose to do next. We are incredibly connected. And yet, through all of these connections, we feel more isolated than we ever have. We have more at our disposal, fingertips with medicine, resources. But we're packed, jam-packed with anxiety right now, depression, the elevation of suicide globally. There's a whole lot going on that requires us in our individual walk, but also as we lead those around us forward, to choose conscious leadership. It really does matter, because what got us here won't get us to where we want to go next. Einstein reminds us of that. The world we have made as a result of the level of thinking we have done thus far creates problems that we cannot solve at the same level at which we created them. So how do we solve for the problems that we currently face, whether that's in politics, business, environment, health, wellness, engagement, whatever, the way countries interact with one another? How do we solve for this? Well, we elevate the level of thinking going into the problem solving. The triggers are coming, but now we get to solve. Now we get to respond. Now we get to move forward together, my friends. So let's talk about it. It matters at a macro level, but also at a micro level in your own relationships. Here are some ways that you can grow in conscious leadership. We do spend time on each of these as we journey forward together. Today, we're going to pick one of them. There's overlaps, of course, in all of them, but we're primarily going to pick one. You may guess if you choose, but it's coming your way, like it or not. Here we go. So you can choose leadership coaching, immersion retreats, workshops, in studio. Thank you for choosing in studio. Meditation, prayers, journaling, self-work. This is a partial list of growing in conscious leadership. But today, the one I want to highlight, the one I want to spend quite literally 90 seconds with you on, is meditation. So I'd like you in your journals right now to write down meditation. Okay. Some of you right now are freaking out. You are about to say, I'm turning O'Leary off. I am not the kind of guy who meditates, dude. Have you seen me? This is not what I do. Fine. Use the word recalibrate. We're going to spend 90 seconds recalibrating. If that's what you want to talk about, fine. You want to put a little business spin on it? Go for it. We're going to recalibrate your leadership senses. That might make us feel better about what we are about to do. But for millennia, those who've come before us, we just refer to this as meditating. Gaining clarity mindfully. Okay? Meditation. Here we go. In the nature scene, baby. Sit on the log, open wide your head, your eyes, your heart. We're going to do this together. But before we do, I'm going to tell you why we're going to do it. The goal of meditation is not to control your thoughts. It's to stop letting your thoughts control you. This is awesome. I'm going to pretend like you have never heard that before, and we're going to say it again. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, with studio, I'd like you to get out your little journals. Mine's black. Yours is probably red. You may want to write down this next sentence because it's going to be awesome. Here we go. The goal of meditation is not to control your thoughts. Not what? It's to stop letting your thoughts control you. It's not to control your triggers. Triggers are going to come into your life. The alarm clock buzzes. The birds sing. The kids nag. Life happens. The goal of meditation is not to control that stuff. It's going to happen. It's to stop letting that stuff, and it is just stuff, control you. I'm big time into all of these little lists you see up there. We could maybe we will sometimes spend a whole day on just prayer or journaling or self-work, workshops, et cetera, et cetera. But today, briefly, we're going to go through this, okay? There are benefits that you get out of meditation. Let me give you a partial list. As we meditate, and if you don't like that word, honestly, cross it out and say, as we recalibrate. Fine. As we recalibrate, we reduce our stress, which has health consequences among many other things. We help manage anxiety. This is good news. Promotes emotional health. Lengthens our attention span. First world leaders, we may need this right now. The ability to lengthen our attention span. It generates empathy. It improves sleep. That might help. It lowers blood pressure. That's awesome. It creates awareness. One of the challenges with the above, below the line concept is, what if you're not aware of where you play? What if you just don't know? Meditation helps us get a lot clearer on how we're showing up. Okay? We're not going to control our thoughts, but we are going to control what we do afterwards. So my friends, with awareness, there is a choice. But without awareness, there is only habit. Okay? So I'm going to go full screen right now. You may write it down if you choose. We're going to take a grand total of 90 seconds on this exercise. With awareness, there is choice. Without awareness, there is only habit. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'll go on the full screen so you don't think I'm like leaving to, take a walk around the block while you're working. I'd like you to just kind of start catching your breath for a moment. Put down the pen, stop typing, stop returning emails if you're working while you're listening to studio. You're doing the wrong thing. You cannot do two things at the same time. I'd like you to catch your breath and then lean forward a little bit in your chair. Don't fall off. Keep your rear end on a little bit, but lean forward a little bit. I'd like you to have your feet hit the ground. Make sure both feet are on the ground. If you want to take your feet out of your shoes, even better. This is going to be a 90-second exercise. I utilize this at least 6 times throughout my day, even when I'm on the road, even when I'm on an airplane traveling, even when I'm racing from meeting to meeting, speech to speech, life event to life event. And this is an awesome way for me to catch my breath and recognize what's going on, what's influencing me, where my stressors are, and what I can utilize them powerfully going forward, okay? It's helped me massively. It's helped many others before me. It will empower you to own your life, okay? Because with awareness, there is choice. Without awareness, there's only a habit. There's only triggers. So lean forward. I'd like you to shut your eyes. If you're looking at me right now, you're not listening. Shut your eyes. Put your hands kind of gently on your knees. And I'd like you to breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. Nice and slow. I'm not going to talk to you for the entire 90 seconds. But I like to breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. And as I do this, I only focus on the breath. Anytime a thought or a bird's chirp or an email beep or the nag of a spouse or a cry of a child or the bark of a dog shows up, I realize I'm not focusing on what I'm supposed to be focusing on. This is only focusing on your breath. And what I'm encouraging you to do today in the practice round is count how many breaths you can get by only focusing on your breath. Anytime a thought comes to mind, it means you got to start back over at 0 again. But just count your breaths, nothing else. When thoughts come in, Acknowledge them, notice them, and then move on from them. Start the clock again. Count your breaths in through your nose, out through your breath. I'm going to give you 45 seconds of pure silence to do this. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Count the breaths. But 20 seconds left. I'm not sleeping here. You should not be sleeping there. And when you notice a new thought show up in your mind, that's okay. Just put it to the side and go back to your thoughts. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Nice deep breaths. 10 seconds. Just take one final deep breath in, breathe it out. I always view me almost like a prayer, that I'm breathing in grace and forgiveness and awareness and life, forgiveness, understanding, empathy, life, man. And I'm exhaling all the garbage. My shoulders become a little bit less tense. My thoughts become a little bit more clear. The negativity that frequently circles around my life begins to dissipate, and I get focused on the things and the individuals, the opportunities that remain in front of me, not the ones that are lost to mistakes I made yesterday or the decisions of those around me. For me, it's been a very big deal to recognize that with awareness, there is choice. That without awareness, there's only a habit. Just kind of, we're pre-programmed, okay? But we're not intended to be just pre-programmed. We've been given the gift of free choice. Use it wisely. Harness it and become even better at wielding this thing going forward. In your business, great. In your relationships, great. In your faith journey, awesome. In your health. And in the way you serve, you treat, you live, and you elevate those around you. Okay, my friends. So as you begin to catch your breath, hopefully wake back up. Let me go back to the full screen. There's that quote again. With awareness, there is choice. Without awareness, there's only habit. Now what I'd like to do as we begin moving toward the finish line together is to make a commitment to live it. Make a commitment to live it. If you have any questions right now as we begin wrapping up, we got about 9 minutes left on our time together as we talked about owning your life, embracing your influence, choosing conscious leadership, mindfulness, and making a commitment to live it. If you have any questions, though, send them my way. I got another story, one final point, your takeaway, and then I'll answer any questions you have after I take a big swig of water in my little Inspire cup. All right. By the way, K2 bragging, and he rightly should, got to 13 without interruption. That has never happened before. K2, awesome. And for those of you who aren't tracking with what K2 are talking about right now, counting your breaths without interruption. Not thinking about the weekend, whether your team made March Madness or not. Not thinking about what emails you're missing out on right now because you're part of In Studio for the next 8.5 minutes. But just counting the gift that is breath. The gift that is breath, man. What a gift. In through your nose, out through your mouth. K2 got through 13. Here's the cool thing. I got a little boy named Patrick. Patrick, about 6 months ago, decided he's going to become great at basketball. Listen, Patrick doesn't know this. He's an O'Leary. Kid's in some trouble, man. We got jumping issues. We got height issues. We got skinny issues. We got a whole lot of issues going on. He may not become the great Michael Jordan. He may not become the next LeBron James, but he is committed to getting better. I was shooting baskets with Patrick yesterday, and guess what? This little dude was knocking down free throw after free throw. He's 11 years old. That's a long shot for an 11-year-old kid, just a free throw. He's practicing at it, and he's getting better in basketball. You want to practice mindfulness? You want to practice meditation? As great as 13 is for K2, if he did this five times a day, that's my goal, 5 times a day for the next week, for the next 2 weeks, for the next month. When we come back together in April, if we did the mindfulness activity one more time, I promise you K2 blows through 13, knocks it out of the park, because we get better at the things we practice. This is worth practicing. So as you get ready to leave today in a few moments, consider practicing mindfulness. Consider just making it a part of your daily ritual. For some of us, maybe it's just once before lunch, like 10 o'clock. And then maybe once in that part of the midday when you just start to crash. 2 o'clock. Maybe just go outside, sit on a bench at 2 o'clock for 90 seconds. People will think you're weird. Like, I think she goes out and she sleeps. Fine, let them think that. But when you come back and you are clear and you are focused and you are alert and you are mindful and your blood pressure is dropped and your sense of awareness has gone up, they won't be thinking you're weird when you finish strong that day or that week. Keep on going, man. So I encourage you to take that on. Take on that challenge. Okay, here we go. We're going to begin wrapping up. Make a commitment to live it, my friends. Make a commitment. Anybody remember who these two people are? Yes, indeed. That is your mother, John. That is your father. We've heard these stories before. Where are you going with this one? Perfect. What was the question my mom asked me in the hospital? First one who gets it means that you are a conscious leader. You are mindful. You are aware. You are not living just through triggers habitually, but you are choosing the response. You are choosing the direction forward. You are intentional. You are practicing intentionality, which we can have a whole podcast, a whole webcast on that one. The question, of course, Mom asked me was, baby, do you want to die? It's your choice, not mine. And on January 17th, with her hand holding mine, a little boy decided, no, I don't want to die. And her response back was this, then good. Look at me. Take the hand of God, walk the journey with him, and you fight like you never fought before. That is a powerful sentence to hear when you're 9 or at any stage along the journey. Take the hand of God, walk the journey forward with God, and fight like you never fought before. Going back to one of the quotes from one of our studio members, be all in for life. That's what my mother was saying to me. And for 5 months in hospital, through amputations and skin grafts and countless procedures and operations, struggles, a little boy was choosing not to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Well, then that little boy gets to go home, which is good news. We made it. That night, though, my mother made me dinner. It was au gratin and potatoes. But I was unable to hold the fork. And for those of you who have read the book On Fire, first of all, thank you for it. And truly, we celebrated 3 years of it being out yesterday. It's changed my life in so many ways. But the cool thing as we talk about On Fire is we're recognizing it really is changing the lives of those who have read it. So if you have read it, thank you. And if not, it's in every library. It's every bookstore. Check it out at some point when you're ready. On Fire it's a cool read. But in that book, I showcase what my mother did the day I came home. She asked me a very different question. She made me eat potatoes that day with a fork, something I had never done since losing my fingers. She ruined dinner. It became a train wreck. My plate flipped over twice, and I wept for probably an hour or so before it happened. By the end of the night, a little boy named John O'Leary was holding a fork, scooping up potatoes, looking at his mom with great hatred, eating, feeding, leading, moving, acting, owning, living again. The day I came into the hospital, she encouraged me not to die. But the day I came home, she taught me something much more important. Because I don't think any of us are here because we don't want to die. I think we're here for an even better reason. So my question to us, my friends, as we get ready to race out of Webcast 23 into the ability to own our lives is not about death. It's quite different, actually. Do you want to live? Do you want to live? And the very fact that you are here and that you've been here since we started at 10:30 Central means that your answer to it is yes, O'Leary, I'm all in. So for that, I am incredibly thankful and grateful. We will be coming back next month to talk about our next studio. It's going to be episode number 24. We're going to be talking about something that I believe we need a lot more of in our marketplace. It may sound soft, but the way we're going to unpack it together will make it anything other than that. And it's the power of hope. In saying that, I get a smile on my face because I get fired up thinking about learned helplessness and about the loss of hope and what happens when we come back into our own lives and into the lives of those around us by reigniting, by reimagining what remains possible, and then helping ourselves and helping those around us take the next step forward. So we are going to be lifting high the power of hope unapologetically. So get ready for that one. It's going to be coming to you in April, my friends. I'm hoping as we get ready to move forward that there might be a couple questions that some of you may have. Let me look back down at our little chat feature. One thing I want to acknowledge as we get ready to move in our own directions with 2.5 minutes left in our time together is our next webcast will be, write it down, journal it, put it down forever, April 15th. April 15th is a day that worries many of us up in the United States. Well, no longer will it worry you, my friends, because it might be tax day, but more than that, it's Webcast 24 day, baby. And we are going to be igniting the power of hope together. So it will give you, on a day where you may have had nothing to look forward to, something to look forward to. I look forward to having you all back with us for that one. And if you have any questions right now, chat them to me. If you have questions after you step out of this, email us. There's probably studio@johnolearyinspires.com is a great way to hit us up. There's also the discussion forums. We are going to be continually sending out questions throughout the 4 weeks between now and on April 15th. Be mindful of those. Be aware that they're asked not just so we can see if we can send out questions, but we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear from you ladies. We really want to make this studio experience as powerful, as elevating, as transformative as anything I could possibly create together with you. It's a collaborative effort, so together we are better. I'm aware of that. I want to thank you all for being part of our journey. I don't know which of you, who of you have great basketball programs that you are supporting, but I represent St. Louis University. I graduated there along with my wife. We, going into this last weekend, were the 129th best team in the country. But baby, next weekend, like Duke and Kentucky and Kansas, the St. Louis University Billikens are dancing. We got as great a chance as anybody else to be dancing all the way through March. Hope works, love wins, and the best is yet to come. So regardless of who your team is, guys and ladies, I want to thank you for being part of our community. And I want to really encourage you today, don't just hear these words or watch this video, but be stirred to such a degree that you take from it one idea, one nugget, to take some habit into an action that allows you to elevate your life and the life of someone else that you're going to serve. I want to thank you all for being part of it. God bless. Have a great day. See you April 15th for this time. And until next time, this is John O'Leary, and today is your day. Live inspired, community. Live inspired. See you soon. Have a great week. Enjoy.